Welcome back. This conversation is part of Module 4. The time to start with AI is now. I'm joined today by Ernest Kung, who is my colleague and the product manager for AI at the Associated Press. We work together on the local news AI initiative. He'll share with us a bit about his background and the 5 projects he just brought over the line. Welcome, Ernest.
Hi, Amy. It's good to see you again.
Yes, after our 3 meetings today.
Yes.
I don't know. I worked in print publishing. That was where I got my start. And working with you was really great because every time I would just go down the road, because when people talk about local news, they often mean newspaper, but you would always be like, hey, what about broadcasters? And you always brought it back to broadcasting. And I think if ever there was a genius hiring decision at AP, it was when they brought our 2 worlds together, because I think they really complement each other. So could you talk about your background in broadcast TV and why you decided to make a career shift?
All right. So broadcast TV was my career for 15 years or so. I was a local news writer and producer in markets all around the West Coast, in Portland, Oregon, San Diego, and most of my time was spent here in my hometown of Los Angeles. And my career was really just focused on our day of air products. All my jobs were focused on, at the end of your shift, we put on a show. That particular role of producing for an hourly newscast is a very unique set of skills. It's a unique position. My concern is that my skills were not applicable in a digital world. And so I decided to go back to school, do a master's degree in order to give myself more opportunities alongside journalism. So I did my master's was in business information systems. My research project was on AI and journalism. And by doing so, of course, then opened up the opportunities for me to be able to take this role that I'm doing now with you.
Yeah. I mean, you were years ahead of the curve. Like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when you started your program, people must have thought, AI, is it coming? Is it here?
I was doing my master's in New Zealand. And so journalists have certainly heard of it. And it wasn't something that played too much in their day-to-day. The most use of AI I saw was in this area of transcription. And so that journalists were already using off-the-shelf tools, commercially available tools, to transcribe their interviews. And they had learned that from journalists. It wasn't any formal training. It was just literally one journalist telling another journalist, hey, this is a great tool. And that's how they just quietly adopted AI. And makes total sense. That's going to be the same story for many journalists all over the world.
Yeah, you think that's the first step in?
Yeah. The first step is very, very subtle, right?
Yeah, well, and also necessary. I mean, once journalists were like, you mean I don't have to sit and listen to this tape 10 more times to try and get it word? I mean, transcription is kind of a miracle for anybody who remembers the tape and foot pedal days, because that was rough. So we fast forward, we're at AP, we've been here, we were here a year, and we started project builds. We had a project pitch process. We had 43 pitches brought to us. Again, you kept us very on target with like, hey, it has to be broadcasters, radio, and print. And we really stuck to that. We had 2 print projects. We had 1 radio and then 2 television stations ultimately that we picked. Can you talk about the 5 projects that you just brought over the line, I believe today as we're recording?
So the projects are quite varied. They're all over the United States. We have I can go through each one here. And so one of them is the Brainerd Dispatch newspaper in Brainerd, Minnesota. They have they now have a system where you can build, where you can automatically publish certain police blotters. Right now, we've taken care of their main core coverage area in this project, which means that when they get their police blotters daily or weekly from the police, the local agency, the system, once you plug it in, will automatically produce a pre-written copy for the crimes that you might actually care about. And so there's a human, what we call human in the loop. The human journalists, all they have to do is select which crimes they care about in order to publish. So we see significant time savings here in this product, where a journalist no longer has to manually go through what can be a very lengthy police crime log, the blotter, and identify the cases that might be interesting. What we've done is we've programmatically identified the highest priority cases, and this is defined by the newsroom's own editorial criteria. And from there, by automatically producing it, it's estimated that we save hopefully upwards of 2 hours per day from journalists. So,
well, you know, like
yeah.
police blotter, as we were looking at
Yeah.
these, we had several projects pitched that were around police blotters. So we know that it takes a lot of time, and it's a huge reader. It's a huge reason why readers subscribe or tune in or look at local news stations. They do want to know the crime, and so what's happening in their neighborhood. So I think we addressed a need with this project that I think was really important. So that's great.
Absolutely. And we have another project with KSAT TV in San Antonio, Texas. And so their project is about transcription of video that they've shot themselves. And so they're, as a TV station, as you might imagine, the photographers go out and shoot immense amounts of video every day. They already have an existing process where they come back and they transcribe most of it. They plug it in through a plug in their video through an AI transcription system. Their project is now where we've added on to their existing process by adding a layer of AI-based summarization of those transcripts, and then plugging that summary into their CMS for their digital output. So their situation is they wanted to be able to expand the number of stories they provide on their digital platforms, but they're limited, as every newsroom in the world is, by the number of humans available to do the job. So having AI automatically summarize effectively all incoming video gives the digital producers, an option of whether they want to publish or not on that story. And if they do unpublish, something is, at least a shell of a story is already written, ready to go. So that particular project actually works really well for the quality of the video that they have. That's in contrast, of course, to another project that we're doing, which is with Michigan Radio. Michigan Radio is the NPR affiliate based out of the University of Michigan. And so they approached us with a plan to summarize their transcripts, except their transcripts are of city council meetings. And from a technological perspective, it turned out to be not possible for the summarization. And that's because we are at the mercy of the quality of city council meeting recordings, the video recordings.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, all too frequently, the quality of those recordings are very low. They are nowhere near professional quality like KSAT television's photographers shoot. Right. So there's very, very low audio quality, which is the biggest problem. And so the transcription services have too many errors to be able to result in any content that you would want to summarize. If you summarize a bad transcript, you're going to have a bad summary. So you don't want to do that. This project also ended up shifting beyond that, or more perhaps a step back, was Michigan Radio already had a transcription system built. They had that built with Google News Initiative funding in a prior project. That transcription service that they built out turned out to have accuracy issues. It would have mistaken transcripts, quite a lot actually.
Not a good thing.
No, not a good thing. So our project here shifted to support them in deploying a brand new transcription system that now, based on early feedback, is far more accurate in production. And so that helps reporters out by bringing them awareness of city council meetings that they can't attend on their own. These more accurate transcripts also then help power the alerting feature, a new alerting feature that was built during this project. The alerting feature is just simply keyword alerts. So if a reporter was interested in pay raises in a particular city, they could attach pay raises or some other form of increase, some other words to that one city council's recordings. So when the transcription system automatically encounters those keywords, it will send an email alert to the reporter. And so that, of course, is immensely powerful. When you know something that might be happening in a particular city, you can send yourself an alert. Another project that we're working on is with WFMZ TV in Allentown, Pennsylvania. They now have a system that they're testing out where AI automatically determines if incoming emails are what they would consider newsworthy enough for their planning calendar, or if the email is not newsworthy for that criteria, or they're simply unsure. The AI isn't sure what to make of a particular email. And so when an email is determined to be newsworthy for the planning calendar, the AI automatically sucks up the details of the email message and pops it into their the CMS, the planning section of their CMS. So what this does is it replicates the human function, where a human assignment editor goes through their emails, looks for interesting events to plug into their future coverage calendar. This doesn't affect anything the public ever sees. On their day of editorial meetings, they go through the coverage calendar for that day, and then they pick out the events that they want to send a reporter or photographer to. So this is only affecting the planning function behind the scenes. This particular system was probably it is in fact our most complex, in that it does use a custom developed neural network to be able to make the classification decision of newsworthy, not newsworthy, or unsure. And so that is, but this TV station currently is now using it as a test right now to see how well it goes.
So Ernest, how much does it cost to run something like this? This is, you said, the most complex of the 5 projects.
Yeah, and so right now we are still finalizing the estimates, just equipment. The earlier estimate we had was at $60 a month, but that's going to revise upward a bit, just based on the complexity of the design of this particular system.
Great, thank you. And the 5th project, I think it's El Vocero?
Yep. So that 5th project, El Vocero, is a newspaper in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And so they approached us with help, requesting help with automating weather alerts especially during hurricane season. We're, of course, in the middle of a hurricane season right now. As we are doing this recording, there's a tropical storm approaching Puerto Rico. And so the system is being put to the test. We are seeing how the system generates output based on the incoming storm. The system was built to just be very simple in that it takes the input rather, from the National Hurricane Center, plugs it into a story template, and then publishes it as a draft into their CMS.
So you do use generative AI on this one?
No, there is no generative AI on this particular project. And one of the reasons is that generative AI is, at the moment, very error prone. It's not reliable enough where we need to be 100% error free. In a scenario where we're doing weather alerts, especially during a hurricane or tropical storm, those alerts just simply have to be 100% accurate. There is no room for error, because a mistake could literally hurt people, could cause injuries or death. And so the benefit of the system is to make potentially life-saving information more accessible, faster, and hopefully in the future to a wider population.
Yeah, so using natural language generation in a templatized style of artificial intelligence.
Correct.
Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about the development teams? We chose to work with, this was all funded through a Knight Foundation grant, which was generous, but we realized we had to be really judicious with how we spent money. So we chose to work with university development teams. Can you talk a little bit about how that process worked and what you learned for moving forward with other future projects?
Yeah, so we worked with primarily 3 universities. They were Northwestern University, the University of Missouri, and Stanford University. And so they took on these 5 projects. The experience was, it was meant to be an educational experience as well for the students. And so from a development perspective, where in a professional shop you may have the bunch of the standard agile ceremonies that as you would describe them for Scrum or anything like that. Things like that didn't really happen because the students weren't in that mode. And also at the same time, students are not professionals, so they're not available 24 hours a day for breaking things. So it was working around their schedules, around their important academic schedules, around breaks that they were taking. So that was a unique aspect of these 5 projects to build them out.
Yeah, and to give them a project that's actually not just something that they're building for fun for class, it's something that newsrooms are actually going to use.
Correct. These are real life projects that were, and they knew from the very beginning that they're meant for real use. It is not a capstone assignment. These were real life projects that were meant to and are being used in real life.
So my last question is, if someone wants to implement one of our projects and all 5 are open source, the code base is open source, the case study around it is open source, how would they start?
For these projects, because the code is open source, newsrooms with people who have the capability of handling open source code will be able to find everything that they need. When we open source it, it'll be on the Associated Press GitHub account. We do expect to do that sometime in September. Primarily, it's to having the developer, but also having the funds. Some of these projects, as we mentioned earlier, do cost a bit of money to run every month. Having the funds to do that. But even before adopting any tool or any project, just because it's out there, you want to determine if it actually fits into your newsroom operations. There's in no scenario should you pursue any AI-based product, whether it's from us in this project or from a commercial vendor, if it has no real need in your newsroom. We always like to say, and I'm sure Amy's already covered in other parts of courses, that you start with your needs first. You start with your needs, then go outward.
Yeah. Absolutely. The framework is covered in Module 4, as is the news value chain, if it can feel overwhelming to figure out what you need to fix first. And, you know, these projects were fact-finding missions for Ernest and me when we put them together. We did process mapping around their current process. We spent time with newsrooms for their future process mapping, which was a lot of fun. And Ernest, I'm really excited and happy for you and the journalism world that these projects are out there and available to be used. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.